What's up guys, it's the Cheapster here, back with another video, and today we have a fun Cheapster challenge. So I tried to spend an entire week living off just $1 per day at Aldi. And by that I don't mean $1 per day so I got $7 for the week. I mean every single day I only got $1 to go spend. And that was it. Everything I ate or drank had to come from that $1 I got per day at Aldi. Now of course I still did let myself have tap water for free. I mean, I'm not trying to die here. And I still did take my vitamins and some medicines I take. It wouldn't be very smart to not take that stuff through the challenge, but everything else had to just be off that $1 I got per day and bought at Aldi. So in total, the full week I would get $7, $1 per day. And I definitely planned that at the beginning of this I was going to feel pretty hungry, but my thought was I can probably build up my food as the time goes on and then eventually have a lot of food by the end. I don't know why this is a challenge I've been wanting to do for a while. I guess to show how cheap you could actually live off of Aldi. I really just wanted to see, is this something that's possible? And I'm honestly just a little weird. So starting off with day one of the challenge, I started this challenge at noon, but I waited until later in the day to eat. I'm used to intermittent fasting anyway, so this saves money and I didn't have to get food until later. But later on, when I was starting to feel hungry, I got my $1 from my cash envelope and took my first trip to the great old land of Aldi. When I got there, I realized I can't use my cart or I'd have to spend a quarter, and I need that money to buy food. But I actually did find a cart that somebody else left with a free quarter in it. So after looking around for a while at what's going to be the best to spend on throughout this challenge, I quickly realized that the pasta aisle and the canned food aisle are going to be the best bet for me. And something I had planned that I was going to do right from the start was to get eggs, because our eggs used to be 29 cents. But when I got over there and found them, they were $11.80. Oh wait, that probably means $1.18. I really hope so, but still out of my budget for the only $1 I had for the day. I also thought ramen could be a good option, but unfortunately they only sell it in big packs at Aldi for $1.88, so that would have taken up about 2 days of my money. So after a while of searching around, I finally landed on the British classic thanks to my wife, beans on toast. Bread was only 55 cents for the whole loaf, and I could use that throughout the week, and a can of beans was only 38 cents. So for a total of 93 cents, I still had 7 cents left for the next day. Also, as a side note, I returned the cart that I got for free and found 5 other carts sitting out in the parking lot because it was around closing time. So I actually made $1.50 in quarters by the end of this. But I won't use that money for the challenge, but it was funny because I actually made money on this Aldi trip. So I went home to our new house to meet up with my wife to eat my food, and I realized we didn't have a can opener there, so I wouldn't be able to eat there, so I had to go back to our apartment. And I was getting a little bit irritable at this point, realizing I didn't have a can opener. I couldn't eat right then. In the meantime though, at the house while I was talking to my wife, I did end up eating the heel of the bread because I was so hungry. So then I went home and made some beans on toast. It's really just toasted bread, no butter, and I saved some of the beans for later. Also, I made sure to keep anything I had left in a separate pantry and a separate area in the fridge so that I would make sure to keep all my food separately for the challenge. And later that night, I did end up eating the rest of the beans and some more of the bread. So day two, starting off my day, I grabbed my other $1, which gave me a total of $1.07. And my fasting went really late this day because I had to get some filming done and I just didn't have time to get to the store. I wasn't able to get to Aldi until about 7:30 at night. I was really craving peanut butter at this point because probably the protein and the fats in it, but I didn't have enough money to get that, and I also didn't think that would be a great option just to have for today. But at this point I was really starting to feel hungry and really craving protein like meat, so I thought maybe hot dogs would be a good option, and they were only 79 cents, but that was a little bit too much for what I wanted to spend. Also, mustard is 46 cents, which is great, but with only $1 I wasn't going to be able to have anything on it. So I went ahead and grabbed a box of mac and cheese, which is a great price at Aldi, for 34 cents, and just another can of beans at 38 cents, which that left me with another 35 cents for me to spend the next day. So I went home and made my mac and cheese with no milk or butter. Yeah, I wondered how that would taste. Luckily, my wife told me that if I used just a quarter cup of the pasta water to mix with the cheese, that would actually make it taste a lot better. And yes, it really did. I also made beans on toast again, and I have to say, compared to the meal before, this was a really great meal that started to feel like a more rounded meal. At the end of the day, I still had some mac and cheese later that I ended up eating later in the day, and I still had half a can of beans left. So day three, the fun day. This day got really stressful. Really stressful. So starting my day, I got my $1 from the cash envelope. Then I was super busy with work today because I needed to get another video done, and it was St. Patrick's Day, so I wanted to work Grubhub as much as possible. So this day I barely made it to the store right at close at 8, but I was really excited because I was able to get hot dogs to have some meat and another can of beans, all for just $1.17, and that left me with 18 cents for the next day. But I didn't get to eat them right then because I was just so busy with orders for St. Patrick's Day. So I accidentally did a 24-hour fast and ended up eating at at finally 1 a.m. Yeah, it was a really rough, crazy day. I was definitely starting to get pretty irritable as that day went on, especially delivering food. But I did finally get to have my hot dogs, which gave me some protein and felt really good. Thankfully, I was finally starting to get a stockpile of food, and that made me really excited. I really started to appreciate the little things like having enough beans and bread for leftover. So then on to day 4. That day was a big day because I knew that after getting my dollar for the day, I would have a total of $1.18. And after finally going to Aldi earlier in the day, just look at that, the sun is actually still up. I had the exact amount of money for what I had been wanting to buy all along. Eggs, which I am hoping are $1.18 and not $11.80. That was the exact amount of money I had, so I was left with nothing at the end of that. So for dinner, I had eggs on toast. Again, just toasted bread with eggs, no butter. But this was so good and actually felt like a full protein meal. Later that night, after working really late, I just had some plain hot dogs with bread. This felt really crazy to me because it felt like I actually had 2 substantial meals in one day, eating hot dogs and eggs. So I was definitely starting to feel better, like I was eating more normal food in bigger portions. So the next day, day 5, this day started out with an emergency because I was out of bread. Not something you want to be out of during this challenge because the bread was pretty much holding me over throughout all the meals. So I made sure again to go to Aldi before I started working Grubhub that night. And again, I was really craving peanut butter, but it's $1.19, so I wasn't going to be able to get that. So I decided just to buy the bread at 55 cents so that tomorrow I would have a full $1.45. And a really nice thing about this day is I made some hard-boiled eggs before I went out to work, so I was able to eat before I worked that day. And that was really great because I was definitely getting really cranky while I was working without food the other days. I mean, when you're looking at menus like this, you don't want an empty stomach. So this was another very long day of work. This isn't normally how my work week goes, but between St. Patrick's Day and March Madness starting up, Grubhub was just super busy and I really didn't want to miss out on it. So this day I ended up working really late because the orders just kept coming in, so I didn't get off until 3 in the morning. So I was really hungry when I got back, but it was so great because I had enough stuff to actually make like a complete meal. So basically I was able to make like a full English breakfast at this point with some beans, toast, fried eggs, they were a little overcooked, and some sausage. Okay, it was just hot dogs. I sliced them in half and make them look all fancy. And this was the moment I realized, man, do the English know how to be cheap? So I felt really great after that meal, and not only was my meal so filling, but I had a lot of money to spend for the next day too. For the first time, I was really starting to feel pretty normal because I was able to eat before work. I had a nice big meal when I came home, and I had a decent amount of money to spend for the next day. So day 6, this day was a great day because I was finally able to take the day off from work. And surprisingly, I wasn't feeling very hungry for the beginning of the day, probably because that meal was so big for me the night before. And that was until my wife made this delicious looking chicken that I couldn't eat myself. So then I decided to finally head to the store for the day and grab my food. So I got my dollar and I headed off to Aldi. So finally, after hoping to for a while, I was able to buy pasta for 75 cents with some tomato sauce, which was 25 cents for a total of exactly $1. I really wanted to buy some green beans for the meal to get some vegetables, but at 47 cents, they were 2 cents more than what I could afford. Fun fact here, the tomato sauce at Aldi for 25 cents was actually the cheapest thing I could find to buy at Aldi. So if you ever want the cheapest things at Aldi, there you go. So I went home and made the pasta with some bread with it, and man, was this a great filling meal. The sauce was a little bland, but honestly, it kind of tasted like SpaghettiOs. And later that night, I did have an egg sandwich. And this was the moment I realized it was finally all coming together. I had a good little stockpile of food, and I with so many options, the next day was going to be great, and I even got an extra $1 the next day to get food. So day 7, the last day of the challenge. I didn't eat anything again until late because I just wasn't really feeling hungry yet, but later I grabbed my last $1 and headed straight to Aldi knowing exactly what I wanted to buy. Since I still had so much food left and it was the last day, I decided I wanted to try to make my wife dinner with all the food that was left. I figured this could be a pretty good flex on only spending $1 a day. So after deciding I was going to also make her dinner, I decided I would go get her favorite food, which is mashed potatoes. Those were only 59 cents, and to my luck, they were actually on sale from 69 cents. And to celebrate the whole occasion with this being the last day and finally being done with the challenge, I decided I would go ahead and grab some brownies that were only 85 cents. And that left me with exactly 1 penny for the end of the challenge. 1 stinky, gross little penny. No, really, look at this penny. It's kind of gross. I also noticed in the car that something was wrong with my brownie box and the ink was really weird. It made it look like the brownies were blue or moldy. It was too late now though, so I was hoping I didn't pick up the mold variety. So when I got home, I started cooking up pretty much everything I had left except for the pasta because I wasn't able to get more sauce for it. But here is my cooking. Cue the montage. In the end, I would say that this all turned out pretty well, and my wife was definitely pretty happy with what I had made and that she got to eat some of it. So after this amazing dinner, which felt like a buffet to me at this point, I got started making the brownies. Luckily, I still had 2 eggs left for them, and I just skipped the vegetable oil, knowing that they'd probably come out more cakey, but still would make brownies. So I got all that mixed up, poured it into a bowl, and then popped it into the oven. So after about 40 minutes, I could say they actually turned out all right. And after a week of doing this challenge, I was so excited to eat something like this. So after all that, with my whole week, sharing my food with my wife at the end and really just eating a lot, I only had half a box of pasta left and then the leftover brownies. But at this point, I figured I really wouldn't want anything anyway, and I would be fine until tomorrow. So that brings me to the next day at noon when I could finally eat like normal again. For some reason, one of the things I really wanted was trail mix, so I went ahead to go for that. Had a little sneeze there, I don't know what that was about. And finally got to eat some of the trail mix that tasted so good. I think at this point, my body was really just craving fats and carbs and pretty much everything. And I could really tell after getting back into normal eating, my stomach was so much smaller and I could barely eat what I used to eat, which wasn't a bad thing. But that was the end of the challenge. The one-day dollar spending at Aldi finally completed. And I will say throughout it, it definitely got really hard at some points, but when I started getting to the end and really getting that stockpile of food, it really didn't become such a hard thing anymore. And I will say one of the reasons I really kind of wanted to do this was because I just hear people say all the time how you can't live cheap. And yes, this is an extreme example where I only spent $1 a day and I did it per day instead of buying it all at once. But my point is that yeah, you can actually live pretty cheap if you really work to. And the really awesome thing I would say about this week is I worked a lot and was able to make a lot of money while I was living and just spending $7 that full week. Sure, there's living expenses and stuff like that, but just spending $7 only on food, I didn't spend money on anything else anyway throughout that week. So that is another Cheapster challenge in the book. I hope you guys liked the video. If you guys did, go ahead and do the cheapest thing you can today. Tap that like button. Also subscribe to the channel so we can get around for the next Cheapster challenge. And guys, don't mind the mess. I've got my caution sign here. We are currently moving to the new place, so I've got to move my entire studio over there. But we got some big things to come. New camera coming, so look out for that, and I'll be in my new studio pretty soon. But thank you guys so much for watching, and remember, stay cheap.
That's cheap. You still haven't subscribed? Oh my god.